If the moon shines so much light, why do the astronauts that land on the moon don't go like this and the ground is shining into their eyes?
Yeah, I see what you're talking about, but those are just clouds that's from Earth that's reflecting light off the sun as well.
Okay,
Off the moon. Yeah.
that's my point. Just like the moon gets its light from the sun, which science says, and I agree because the Book of Enoch also says that, so I agree with that. Okay, so you're suggesting that those clouds also got their light from the sun that night.
Yeah.
My question is, why is it just those clouds that are somehow placed? Because these are the clouds, right? Let's say these are the clouds,
Yeah.
and that's you. You is still you. You're still on the earth. Then these are the clouds, but the moon is here. Let's say it's my fist, right? So how come it is just the cloud, these two clouds, so to speak, that are brightened, that are far away from the moon, and clouds here are not brightened by the same light from the same sun? Why is it the clouds that are just behind or in front of the moon that get brightened by the sun?
Well, I'm not gonna say 100% no, but maybe when the sun is hitting the moon, and that light from the moon is now reflected to Earth, maybe the light is bending. Because light bends.
That's what I'm saying. They're gonna bend anything. They're gonna bend people's heads to fit into their structure. That's the problem.
But you're giving me something else to look into.
Look at. So what they do is, like I said, like I started, Christians do it also. So to just be fair, okay, someone has made a position, and then they're like, no, this is what this thing is. So therefore, let me look for something to try to explain it. It's normal. It takes a lot of, like I used to say, emotional intelligence not to be that way. Okay, so look into that, right? And there's no reason why light will bend around the clouds. No. Now they've got, like I said, they're going to go into light bending, that there's a way gravity can pull light, which I suspect is what they're going to do with that 1.3 seconds thing they did, 1.2, 2.4. Okay, right. So, but let's see what you come up with that. Let me ask a second question.
So you don't believe in the theory of relativity?
It's indifferent. They start with basic common things that make sense, but then they just take it too far to just explain crap that doesn't exist. That's the problem. Relativity says this, that if I'm standing on the road, this is the basic relativity, right? The mechanical part, not the astronomical. By the time we extrapolate it to astrological sense, then the thing gets funny, okay? But in simple common sense, it is there in nature. It says if I'm standing, right? If somebody is standing and a car is passing at 20 meters per second or 20 kilometers per second, right? Then that car is going to appear like it's moving because I'm stationary relative to the car. But if I'm in the car, right, the person in the car would see me as though I am moving backwards at the same speed, at 20 kilometers per second backwards. That's simple relativity. It's common sense, but they take it too far. I don't know if you get my point.
I get your position. I don't fully agree, but I think a lot of stuff could be explained. But what was the second question? Because I didn't want to get you.
Yeah, the second question, like I said, is about the moon again. Do I have an explanation for it a little bit? But I want you to think about it first and see what you come up with. And you'll be surprised that some of these defensive explanations, there'll be more than one to the same scenario, because the goal is to defend the faith in science. But let me ask this: if the moon shines so much light, why do the astronauts that land on the moon don't go like this and the ground is shining into their eyes? Have you thought about it?
Well, so are you under the assumption that the moon is illuminated that powerful that it would be blind? That would be blindfold?
I mean, it should be bright. You should have. I mean, it should be, at least you need goggles. At least I think so, or at least a little gentle glow. For example, I will show you my soft light here.
Κασιδιάρης.
Mezio.
Κασιδιάρης.
Logic. Is that logic?
No, that's Mezio.
Mezio, I've just
No, Ilias Κασιδιάρης.
Just mute. Maybe not this thing, so we can have a peaceful conversation.
No, I haven't thought about. I haven't. I got to give you some credit, Minister. You do come up with some, some tangible questions for me to look into.
Mm-hmm. And I'll answer yours also about the African script. But again, like I said, you were going to suggest that maybe it shouldn't be that bright. I think it should be, because if you're walking at night, you will literally see your own shadow at night. And what is the source of the light? The moon.
Right. Well, not technically the moon, but I get what you're saying.
Well, the sun and the moon, right? The sun gets, you see your shadow. There is no way you're close to that light. You're not like this. no matter how soft and nice it is. Or should I give you a scientific answer they're going to give you?
Yeah. Give me the answer that you proposed.
The answer is they will tell you that they went on the day when the moon was not getting any light from the sun. There you go. Now my question is, the next step, because I'm helping you here to defend your faith. The next question is, if the soil on the earth, on the moon rather, is that brilliant and bright, woo, nice stuff, can we pack some of that, put it in the spaceship, put it on the earth, and wait for the sun to rise or whenever, and let the light shine on this illuminescence and this effervescence? You see, effervescence they call it. What do you call phosphorus?
Well, we did collect moon rocks and different materials from the sun.
You collected, my brother. You were not on that spaceship, so don't say we did.
But it's been verified by multiple different opposing sources like Russia, China, who don't have no allegiance to prove America position that the moon landing is real. We have a multitude of different sources that's opposed to America. So, you know.
Speaking about that rock from the moon. Now, I'm not sure if this is moon or Mars, but one rock has been taken to some lab, and some guy who has just been sincere with himself and said, this thing they've told us is from outside space, but they tested it, discovered, nah, this thing's from the Earth. And that was a hoax, actually. Now, I'm not sure if it's from Mars or from the moon, but somebody probably from Mars. So I think they
do you have the expert name?
No, I don't. But just type the rock hoax, Mars rock hoax or moon rock hoax, then you will find that. There's a lot of hoaxes. There's one like that regarding to the skulls also. Someone went to bury a monkey skull and rediscovered the skull he buried. And then say, you see, that's the shape of a man's hand that is in between a man and a monkey, blah, blah, blah. And it was like 1952 hoax. Okay, so people will defend their faith in that sense. Like I said, Christians do it. Okay, so yeah, let's try your question. So I don't. Did you ask the question the last time? I'm suspecting you did.
No, I didn't actually ask a question. But I'm curious to know because
the oldest script.
You claim, the Bible is Black African history, right? Now I don't know any Bible that was written in an African language.
Okay.
In an African script.
That's easy to answer, in the sense that it could have been translated. In fact, it was translated in Greek. I'm sure you're aware of that. 275 BC, right? Septuagint. Yeah,
Septuagint. Yeah.
That's it. And the Amharic.
But let me put a pin to it. We just think it was translated in Greek, because the only evidence of the Bible being translated in Greek comes from a letter that's pseudepigrapha and is only found in Josephus. Now, I'm not saying it's pseudepigrapha. The biblical scholars who want this stuff to be real are saying it's pseudepigrapha based on anachronistic, claims where they concluded that it couldn't have been wrote at this time period. They just get a lot of things wrong, like wrong rulers, wrong people. And it's only found in Josephus, and he's paraphrasing.
That's fine. I remember I flipped the question back to you, and I can't remember what your answer was, but we can do it again. That's okay. Let's say for some reason, right? It was not translated, right? Blah blah blah. But how is it that somehow the story is of the Aramaic or Greek or rather Hebrew people, right? And somehow we don't have a Hebrew text for it that long ago. What do you think caused that?
Well, we have different parchments, like the Silver Scrolls, where we could see these writings formulating from different sources, and the Library of Alexandria at the time was essentially where all the world knowledge was stored.
I'm not sure you got my question. I'm sorry. Maybe I didn't put my own question well. I'm saying that why don't we have this complete? I mean, that is the Hebrew history. And somehow we don't have it written in Hebrew, at least not before the Septuagint. What do you think is the reason? What do you think?
Hebrew wasn't really a spoken language. It was already a dead language by the time Hellenistic period, because we see coins from Jerusalem that's written in Greek alphabets. We see Aramaic being written. So by the time the Hellenistic period, Hebrew wasn't really a written language, and Hebrew, it's not superior to those other languages.
Not even superior.
Greek is more, Greek is an elite language compared to like Hebrew.
Okay. Let's move quickly now. So what are you suggesting? The Greek made up a story about the Hebrews and it made it that detailed. Is that what you're suggesting? That it wasn't translated?
No, I'm not saying the Greeks made up a story about the Hebrews, because we could see people who identify themselves as Jews at Babylonia. Al Yehuda goes back around 500 BCE, and the Elephantine settlement. We have over roughly 10,000.
My question, I'm trying to avoid, you going through a trail of explaining long things. How did that? I forgot, to be honest. Last week, I think it was actually last Saturday. Like, I have time on Saturdays. But my point is, the Hebrew. I think what you said. The conclusion was that the Hebrews made up a story, their own story, or they embellished it. Do stuff to make it look nice, but they wrote it in Greek. Is that your suggestion?
Yeah, they the Hebrews didn't have a text prior to the Septuagint, so they concocted in Alexandria, where the world knowledge was. Prior to that, there's no evidence of no Bible, no evidence of people or the patriarchs being mentioned in any of the older communities like Elephantine and Al Yehuda.
And then they wrote it in the Greek language.
Yeah.
Now, what you just said, what we just concluded, you just understood the understanding we just have. Is that written somewhere particularly that the Hebrews rather did that to write their story, embellish it, and write in the Greek language? Is that a writing that says that particularly?
Well, not verbatim, but this is the current positions of most scholars now. Joseph Aldor, Russell Gummerkin, and some of the major heavy hitters in the scholarly world are now adopting the minimal position, basically saying that the maximal position was a consensus that basically the Bible was written around 800 to 500 BCE, the Second Temple and stuff like that. But now with new information, especially with Elephantine and the evidence that they found there, because the majority position rests on the biblical accounts.
Just a moment. What's the evidence they found that led them to this conclusion that the Hebrews must have made up their own story around 275?
Yeah, so when they excavated the Elephantine settlement, which is in Egypt, yeah, and they're writing letters to the temple in Jerusalem, there was no mention of Moses, no mention of Abraham, no mention of Jacob, no mention of no patriarch.
Just a moment. They found letters in Elephantine there.
Roughly 10,000.
Yeah, 10,000. Yeah, I've checked those before, to be fair. Only I know them by a different name. Maybe I forgot. So they got all of the letters they found and all of the parchments they found, which are mostly now in Oxford and all of those libraries and all of those museums. There was no mention of patriarchs in those things they found in Egypt, right?
No mention of the patriarchs, and no knowledge of Mosaic laws or any festival as far as Passover, the Sabbath, and we see pig bones and they have a temple at Egypt where they're praying to Yahweh and Egyptian deities. So that alone would be a direct contradiction to the Mosaic laws, and this would be roughly at the time period after the Second Temple. So this should be where we should be seeing the most practice of Judaism according to the biblical stories after they left Babylon and rebuilt the temple. But the evidence that we got on the ground, it just doesn't match it. They're writing letters to Jerusalem. They have a temple. They're praying to multiple gods, including Yahweh.
What's the name of that
settlement?
Yeah, the diggings they did to find thousands of stuff in Egypt.
Elephantine.
Elephantine.
Yeah.
I know it by a different name. That name just escaped my mind now.
Yeah, you could just look up Elephantine Jews and it'll just take you right there. The same with Al Yehuda in Babylon. Al Yehuda is a bunch of texts that they found in cuneiform and Aramaic in modern day Iraq, and they go back. They go back to roughly 586 BCE.
That's dating.
Yeah.
But when did they do this excavation, this exposition?
I think 1957, and they wasn't. They was first excavated. I think 1957.
Okay.
And a little bit later.
Good. Let me see if I got this right. So from what they found, the Elephantine stones and writings and letters they found in Egypt in Elephantine, they do not contain Yahweh or any patriarch, and there was so much of
No, it does contain Yahweh. It
doesn't contain patriarchs, rather, sorry, right?
It does not contain the mention of Moses, Abraham, Jacob, Isaac,
yes,
King David, Solomon. No mention.
I got it. So it doesn't contain all the patriarchs, even though it has Yahweh a little bit, but Yahweh worship mentioned there should be a heresy to a Judaist person, right?
Yeah, there should be, according to the biblical, there should be no temples built outside of the temple.
I got it.
The temple like Jerusalem.
So because there were so many letters in a place that should be Judaic, right? And none of it mentioned the patriarchs. Was that just what they relied on to make that conclusion that it made up 275 BC Septuagint?
No.
What else?
And after Alexander conquered Egypt, and the Septuagint was produced, we see a major boom in biblical literature as far as the writings of the prophets, translation of the Bible. We see a wide range of scholarship surrounding the Bible as far as stories about Abraham, stories about Moses.
After 275 BC Septuagint.
Yes, right after 275, this is where we see a large boom of biblical writings as far as the Pentateuch.
Okay, so what does that prove?
Well, basically relying on the evidence that we could prove. We know that for a fact there's no Bible before 275 BCE.
No, that's what we're proving. But I've checked one evidence that they've supplied, and I'm saying this second evidence, how does it help? Because, okay, let me help. Right, the first one will deal with that. I'll still run everything in one flow of thought, so those that are not familiar can get it. So the first is Elephantine, right? I'll get back to that. The second is that just after the Septuagint, there was many writings. In fact, the Masoretic was off of the Septuagint, right?
I wouldn't say the Masoretic is. I'll roughly say the Masoretic is after the Septuagint.
Yeah. So irrespective, there were many texts after the Septuagint. That's the point, right? And let me try to see where they're reasoning from that. If many texts are coming just after the Septuagint, why didn't they come before? Is that the point?
Exactly. Why was there no Mosaic law being practiced until after 275?
Elephantine is not sufficient to say the Mosaic law was not practiced. Only they didn't find it in Elephantine in the writing.
No. These are a multitude of different writings. So they're writing to Jerusalem, and Jerusalem is writing to them back. They asking about different things. So we know that they don't have the Jews that's in Elephantine, they don't know about Passover, they don't know about Sabbath, everything that's instrumental to Judaism, they have no knowledge of.
Yeah, the fact that they didn't have the knowledge, I wouldn't say it's sufficient still to conclude that it never happened before then. I mean, it's not sufficient. You may suggest it. But let me wrap up this whole thought and concept and show you what I think, despite the evidence.
So after 275, we see a wide range of biblical stories.
That's the second one.
So
now, let me tell you something.
It would only be plausible using scientific methodology that clearly these stories came after 275, not before.
That's not sufficient. But let me rephrase everything so those who may not catch all that stuff because of the tangents we went can grasp what's going on. Now, I am saying the Bible Septuagint probably was translated, okay? But look at this. That is, long story short, those things happened and somebody translated all the Hebrew patches into the Greek in 275, which is what is called Septuagint. Mainstream Christianity agrees with that, okay? But you are saying it's not because of scholars. Now, look at this. These scholars are depending on two things to say that the Bible was a made-up story by the Hebrews, right? What are they depending on? They went somewhere in 19-something, 1950, 1970 in Egypt called Elephantine, and they got a lot of scripts. And in those scripts, there were many letters to Jerusalem, right? And those letters does not mention patriarchs. And the practices...
Wait, I meant to add a key. I think you're forgetting something key. At the same time period, in Jerusalem, they're minting coins of Greek gods. So that is a direct violation of Mosaic law. They're minting coins in other deities' names. I wish I could turn my camera on so you could see
It's okay.
So you could see that I think it's, I forgot which Greek god is the owl, but you could see they found
Jupiter
coins, which coins is hard evidence.
I got it. I got your 3 points now that is scholars are depending on. They're relying on to say that the Septuagint Bible story was made up. Number one is that Elephantine, what they found there was letters not observing Sabbath, they were not observing basic stuff, they were not mentioning the name of any patriarchs, right? Yet they were observing some Jewish stuff, okay? That's one. Then number two, there were many books written after the Septuagint, right? That's after the fake Septuagint that was made up by the Hebrew people and decided to make it up in Greek language for some reason. And then there were many books that came up after that. Then number three, they found coins that the Jewish people were minting and they were putting a Greek god on top of their coins. Because of that, they're trying to infer or to induce that the 275 Bible that we thought was translated, right, must have been made up. That's what they're relying on.
Yeah, and don't forget, Jesus and Paul in the New Testament, when they're quoting the Bible or the law as they say it, they're not quoting the Masoretic, they're quoting the Septuagint.
Okay.
Yeah, so I know a lot of people said during that time Jesus was, speaking Aramaic. Well, if he was speaking Aramaic to his people, he wouldn't be quoting the Septuagint, he would be quoting the Targum or either the Masoretic.
By the way, hold my thoughts. I've been trying to make this thing make sense. You keep interrupting me.
Sorry about that. Go ahead.
By the way, following your thoughts, did Jesus even exist? We probably say no, Kwame.
Well, yeah, to me, yeah. Based on the evidence that I see, it's not. It's just bad evidence.
Okay, fair enough. Anyway, so but what I'm saying is that I think the scholars, they chose to ignore the Bible, right? They chose to ignore the Septuagint itself and the stories written in it, right? Because they are also finding stories. They didn't write those papers they've seen in Elephantine. They didn't write them. They just found them, right?
Yeah.
But they ignored, if you will, there's these scrolls and all the letters and all the papers, writings that made up the Septuagint. Elephantine, I think, is in Egypt. So they've ignored that. Number two, they decided to call a letter fake, which is another writing again that confirms how the Septuagint came to be. But they're establishing what they found.
Well, the biblical scholars are not just calling it fake based on they want to be, biased. They're looking at the letter, seeing that is anachronistic. It'll kind of be like anachronistic. Anachronistic. Yeah.
What does that mean?
Basically, if I'm writing a letter in 2026,
chronology, right?
Huh?
That means it doesn't follow sequentially. Is that the meaning of that?
Yeah, essentially, yeah.
I got the meaning. Let's go.
Okay. But I was just going to say, basically, me writing a letter in 2026, and I'm talking about George Washington or something like that. Okay. I didn't live in the same time period as George Washington, so it'll be virtually impossible for me to be talking about George Washington.
Let me say this.
And the letter could only be found in Josephus. Nobody else quotes it. It can't be found nowhere else.
That's one big error, and some of our Christians are beginning to eat that crap. That big error that say, okay, what source outside of the Bible confirm what the Bible says? We need external sources. I know that's one thing that they keep saying. But the Bible is many books. But they decide to say, okay, as long as someone has put those books in a playlist, then they try to gaslight that idea. Well, it's all the Bible. Where else does says this outside of the Bible? Give me references outside of the Bible. The Bible is not one book that somebody wrote in 20 seconds. It's many authors over years, at least based on what it says on face value. So they discard all of that and they say, that's just the Bible. Give me a reference outside of the Bible. No proof outside of the Bible. And the Bible is many books. Now, number two, people then begin to bring up Josephus. Like, okay, fine, Josephus is not Bible. And guess what these callers did? They started gaslighting Josephus too, like you are beginning to pop up. So what then do you want?
No, I'm not. I'm just...
Not you, but I'm telling you, the same people who are deciding to say, okay, we want to give us something outside of the Bible. But we say, well, these things are here, but tell me, Abraham, where is Abraham outside of the Bible? We have Babylonian texts, we have this and that. They say, and these are broken pieces of books, not even books, broken fragment. They decide to go for that tiny little bit of confusion. Anything but the Bible. Now,
but I think that's a fair assertion, because that's just a proper methodology how we prove people are real. Just for instance, for a time period, we thought Ramesses III battle in Kadesh was fake until we found outside sources from the Hittites, Ugarit, Canaanites who described the Battle of Kadesh. We just thought it was propaganda and we thought it was fake. We just chalked it up as fake, that this is just propaganda for Egyptians to tell their citizens that they had a major war with the Hittites. But we didn't find out.
Do you know what a naysayer will say? Sorry to interject you. If what they call them, scholars have decided, scholars, expert, whatever, to put those two accounts, those two narratives into one book, what a naysayer is going to say is, hey, let's say the name of that book is Biblios, for the sake of argument. And I'll say, okay, yeah, you've got two accounts in Biblios, your book you put together. Give me something outside Biblios. It's like me telling you, give me something outside of science that proves what science is saying. Check how that goes.
Yeah, but that's a false equivalent, because the Bible is coming from one source.
One, really? Are you sure?
Yeah, well, yeah.
It's not one source.
I mean, how do we know? It is one source. It's the Bible.
It's just, it's a compendium of books. You see?
Yeah, but it's coming from the same source. It's not
It's not the same
So it's
source, I
not
think.
outside references. But you still haven't answered the question.
Which
What
is
is the oldest Bible that's written in the African language
Mhm.
in the African script?
No, I don't know. It must have been translated off of the. That's why I'm trying this. I literally don't know this. Which is that what's the name of this book? Ethiopian Bible is written in Ge'ez, or is it in Amharic? Are you aware? What language?
It's written in Ge'ez, 5th century, and Ethiopian was converted by Frumentius, a Greek-speaking Syrian who
Long
was
story short.
converted.
Long story short, he probably translated that off of the Septuagint, right?
Yes.
There you go. So that will probably be the oldest I'm going to pop up to you. 180, 380, 5080, whatnot. So
No,
what's
no,
the
no,
point?
no, no, no. The oldest Bible that we have in Ge'ez go back to the 5th century CE.
Right, thereabout. So what does that prove? That's the oldest African language script, you know. So what does that prove? That's not good for this topic, is it?
Yeah, well, and it also, that's very telling because we know for a fact Ethiopia was converted by Greek-speaking Syrians by the name of Frumentius. They still call him Abba to this day. You could go to Lalibela, one of the oldest church in Ethiopia. They have pictures and drawings of him. He's a white guy from Syria. He's a Greek from Syria who went down to King Azana, converted him in his Aksum, roughly around 320,
And was also
325 to 340. So we the oldest Bible that we know of that's in Africa, it was translated from the Greek text.
That's what I'm saying. I'm suggesting that that's not so good for this topic. I mean, everything is from the Greek language, right? Is that your point?
What I'm saying is, if the Bible is about Africans and Black people wrote these scriptures, we just don't have no evidence of it, you know?
Getting tired. I thought what we said was that you're saying the Hebrew people, well, Hebrew, I was thinking the same. So Hebrew people made it up, right?
Yeah. They made it up using sources from Berosus, Manetho, and other sources they found at the Library of Alexandria.
This thing is not
wrote a fake letter to basically.
But just a moment to support that, I got you. But look at this. What you were telling me is an induction, an assumption. Like I asked you, in fact, when you get into court, it is one person's word, not always, but one person's word against another. Now, this person has got a word, you are saying that is fake, and you are studying the same evidence that they've got. You've come up with your own induction, your own assumption from your smart study, which can change like 2 seconds every 10 years. They always come with updated stuff, right? But this person's got it writing. You're saying it's fake.